Sung will get you your next question here, and it's a fun one. How do I create financial interfaces with Mathematica?
Yeah, and hard one too. It's depends on what you are expecting to see here. So I can think of a couple of other cases, like a finance interface. One would be one of those typical stock chart and this thing. Other would be something you would see in the retirement plan or these type of things. How interesting this thing works, and I will use this opportunity to introduce. I mean, it's not exactly interfaces, but other supporting functions that Mathematica have that's important here. So I will show you some of the good thing about Mathematica in this financial area. So first of all, the quick answer, if you want to get this, typical stock chart type of thing, you don't really have to working on that because we already have our built-in function just doing so. For instance, I just want to see, past couple of months, the Google data, then we have some chart called the trading chart, and it's not just showing good example, but it has a lot of dynamic interface elements. So if you mouse over, it shows a high, low, and when it happened, and the volume at the bottom, everything happens. Now, I mean, it's not the only chart, the information you want to get out of there. There's a lot of the moving average and a lot of other information you want to get. So trading charts support something called a financial indicators, but you have to find it in the manual or the documentation center, and you go trading chart and you will see all these different indicators. However, more easier way is using something called the interactive trading chart. So this is our another function, a bit more sophisticated, actually quite more sophisticated. So looks similar except that it's quite dynamic. So in a sense that it refreshes itself, and you can choose to see a different window of the time period. Like I want to choose a city here. Now another good thing is you can choose to see all different indicators. So it's on the bottom. We have a selector menu. You can add, for instance, a typical one. How about Bollinger Band? It's moving average on the high and low, and it shows nicely on top of the plot. So, okay, this is one way to do the task, and many times it's probably enough. But let's say you want to do things by yourself. So I will show you quickly two examples. One using financial data, the other one using the more traditional time value data. So one thing, financial, the Mathematica supports something called a data packlet, which means you get a real time or some data from our best amount of this repository, and starting from Mathematica A, you also are able to get the data from Wolfram Alpha too. In this case, financial data, I'm trying to get the data from about the Google stock price between 2012, the January to until let's say July, and I will assign it to the data. So you just got the nice data. As you can see, the data format is pretty straightforward. It has a timestamp and a value, timestamp and value. Now these type of data, how you want to display it, we have some function called date list plot. So it knows how to interpret the date, for instance, and what's data. So you don't have to actually say anything. Now quickly, make a dynamic version of it. You can wrap it around with the manipulate, right? So and let's say data, I want to just display data from certain n, and n would be depending on the length of the file, right? So length of the data. So I would just want to display a portion of it. And okay, I have a same mistake here, but one thing you have to notice is that the slider, the manipulate slider, moves continuously unless you say not to do it. So in this case, I'm taking this is a part command. I'm just taking a part 1 to n, but n should be integer, so I want to move it by 1, incremental 1. And you can see it just shows dynamically the reason of these things, and you can add a lot of different functionality here. Now let's move on to the slightly different topic. So another one, I love this function because this time value function added in version 8. Before that, whenever people ask, for instance, I have a certain money in the bank. I mean, I try to use Mathematica in a lot of different areas. And, for instance, quickly computing, for instance, my mortgage and this, I try to use Mathematica. Problem, the computing the interest rate and these things. It's just simple, like a geographical, geometric seconds, but still it's bothersome. Sometimes people have a different way to compute it. Now version 8, we have this built-in function called time value, which is pretty handy. So let's say you have a $10,000 in your bank, and your annual interest rate is 0.83, and after 2 years, how much you got, and it just computed for you. Now, I will make a very interesting plot out of it. So let's say bar chart, and I want to see a 10-year trend of this, how my money is growing. Yeah, let's see. Actually, you know what? 3% is too low, so I'll make it 6%. And let's say from year old to 10 year, and let's see. The bar chart is nice, so you can see this. Now, why don't we do it with a manipulate? And I will make the end point as, let's say, D, maybe. And D varies from 2 years, second year to, let's say, 30 years. So it's a long-term plan. So you can see, how it changes. Now, I will play a little bit more. How about we want to change the interest rate too? So let's say interest rate varying from 0 to 1% to 10%. And let's see how it changes. And you know what, actually, this has to be, that's a slight, one interesting thing about this time value is it's not actually the date, can be a continuous value. It doesn't have to be discrete value, but I can just make it discrete. So now, at interest rate 0.1% of interest, it's not that interest. You start with the 10, after $10,000 after 30 years, you only make 13,000, but interest goes up. At the 10%, see, the amount of money is now, you have a one more digit here. So this is one way to visualize this, financial data. And I think this question actually includes some of the way how you're gonna, in real time update this data if you have a data stream. Actually, the problem here is actually the quality of your data, because a lot of these financial institutes, the free service, they don't like you to bang their service and grabbing data every second. So, but if you have some premium data that the data source, that I would just quickly show, it's not really full code or anything, it's how our dynamics works. If you want to refresh it, for instance, every second, I'm just using string, the date example. I will just assign every second, I will refresh the data. So, as you can see, the counter is tickling, right? So essentially, you can put your finance plot or whatever the grabbing data part inside this structure, and it will update itself every second. And I will refer you to the to get some more inspiration about what kind of things you can do with the especially in the financial area, our CDF example contains the investment statement and typical report, financial report type. I know also that's a big area, so you can see we have a embedded report here. It's actually moving dynamic report. You can change the range and such. So this is a good example, and I think we provide a source code upon request. So it's a good way to learn things about finance.
Fantastic. Yep. Thank you very much.